Hello, everyone. Welcome back to my channel, and thank you guys so much for joining me tonight. We're going to be discussing a very important topic as I sit here pretty in pink with the curls popping because I had to take care of them. My hair was not feeling it, but if you're already looking at the thumbnail, you will already know what this topic is about. So let's get into it before we waste any more time. So I want to talk a little bit about why men cheat as a part of this subtitle of this topic. Um, and really speak to some of the issues that have come up over the amount of time that I've had this channel and I've had my Patreon, because on Patreon we get specific about some of the things that men have to look for, some of the things women have to look for as it pertains to finding love and relationships. And I want to say to that there is a need for people to take personal responsibility for first and foremost in the breakdown of their relationships. And I know that I've said this many times on YouTube before that it is not always easy to take this personal responsibility, but it is imperative and super important to do because this is what determines our outcome to an extent. This is the preemptive action that takes place when one is picking a partner for the long haul. And when you are picking a partner for a long haul, one has to be extremely clear about some of the boundaries that you set for yourself. And I know that it is very difficult for us to be able to set boundaries as women, especially as Black women, since most of us are being raised, especially if you fall within a certain category, age range category. This um, is a cycle that has been perpetuated because our mothers, for the most part, had to raise us by ourselves. But if we can move past the hurt feelings and the hard feelings about not having a dad, we can explore ourselves enough to understand what are some of the expectations in relationships as it pertains to what is expected of us and what we expect of our partner. We're in also trying to remain very reasonable and rational in our picking of a partner. I know that I alluded to some of that earlier in my last video, so I won't get into too much detail about what is rational and what is irrational behavior. Although I feel myself leaning towards making a video specifically just on that topic. Maybe I'll put my pretty and pink sweater on and do something specific on those along those lines. But I want to say that um I've been from what I've heard from many women actually that good men are in short supply and are hard to find. I think that this is something that is a variant of what we now define as good and what we don't consider acceptable in our dating experience. Because how is it that we were marrying and coupling up years before, and now women are now finding themselves in a difficult situation that they are no longer able to find eligible bachelors? Is it that the men have all disappeared or vanished? Or are we now holding men to a different standard as opposed to the standard that our grandmothers held their men to? Is this a good thing or is this a bad thing? I think one of the major issues that we face, as I have spoken to some women, is the issue of hypergamy. The expectation when dating a man is that he is on the same socioeconomic and academic background as we. And I chuckle a little bit as I start to think about what that means because the percentile of men that are on par with this standard are are not matching up to the amount of women. Women outnumber men in terms of education and status, Black women, because we are the ones who are going more to school. And there are systematic reasons for that. Men tend to work more with their hands, especially Black men tend to work more with their hands. And Black women have been systematically sought out in academia because a lot of us feel like that was a way out of poverty. These are not my words, these are based on statistical research. And what has also lend itself to this research is that a lot of government assistance was given to women of my mother's generation in order for her to get her education so she can then therefore provide for her family. And poetic justice, as it may be, meant that she would have to give up having a relationship or a father in the home. And women, no one would have predicted, decided to choose government assistance over having a husband. Now, there is a lot of intricate details about how that transpired over the past two generations, but I would encourage my readers and my subscribers to actually, not my subscribers, my readers, to go check out a book called um what was the name of that book again? It was called Promises I Can Keep: Why Middle and Lower Income Women Choose Motherhood Over Children. It is a fascinating review on how this has transpired, and it looks very, very systematically at the individual standing point of what it means to be a single mother and how being married is revered in a completely different light when you are a woman of a certain economic standpoint. But blue collar men you will not find men or white collar men or men of hypergamy if you're an educated woman in great numbers. The market for these men who do exist in this platform are so low, is it, and the market is so saturated with educated attractive women. It speaks that that it is a very, very difficult and competitive market for Black women to be in specifically. This is a buyer's market. And in a buyer's market, the other issue is that the buyer decides what type of product, if you may, they want to purchase. And so this means that men can choose, yet these women have very little understanding about what it is they're choosing, about they're choosing a particular kind of woman. And the women that these men value are not the women who are of the same standing, because men do not value the same things in women as women value in themselves. And this is a very hard pill to swallow, even for myself. As a married woman, I would have been seen as somebody that was unfit for marriage by someone who was on the same socioeconomic, not socioeconomic, but social level as myself. And to quote Kevin Samuels, the kind of man, just to let you know, that is in these circles of um, white collar workers who fit the bill of being a independent or high earning, high value man. These men are usually looking for traditional, fit, feminine friendly, and childless women. And if you don't fall into that category, and I know people are going to try to get coy and try to say, I do fall in that category, yet they weigh 180 pounds or more, depending on your height, that's not necessarily considered fit. These are considered now political statements to be made, and I'm just not saying that these are my statements. I'm saying this is what the market has shown us. And we need to be very, that to me is the actual realization and realistic awareness that women have to take when they are in the marketplace looking for a partner. This also means that you have to date down, settle, compromise, or go back to your baby daddies, or just become the other woman. Unfortunately, this is what a lot of women who are who have waited too long or don't fit into the high value man standard are going to end up having to do, either that or just die alone. Now I understand that this is not what women want to hear, but maybe it is time for us to stop pandering to each other and telling each other what we want to hear and start telling each other what we absolutely need to hear that will get us the results of being married. Now, some people say that they want marriage, and when I tell people what I go through being a married woman or somebody who is, recently domesticated, I still say recently because I've only been married 9 years now, I think. I've been saying 6 years for the past 3 years. And my husband had to correct me the other day, like, no, we've been married like 10 years. I'm like, oh, it still feels very young and fresh. Nice. But anyways, I married a mechanic. I've never been happier in my life. And I just want to say that my husband with my husband is a very attractive man, but to me, he's attractive anyways, and that's what matters. But he mostly works with men because he's a mechanic. And most blue collar workers are. people that work in a male dominated industry. And male dominated industry men usually tend to be also very traditional in what they expect their wives to be. But that meant to me that I had to give up certain ways of being that a lot of the colleagues and friends of which I love and revere were unwilling to support me in doing. They were not going to leave their country and their friend and lifestyle to go across the world to date and marry some mechanic. um, that means that I was left friendless and he had to become sort of like my best friend. But you know what he also is? He's a person that can fix anything. We barely pay for household repairs as something that I used to do a lot of. Or used to have to pay a lot of money for because there was no man in the house. And even if there was sort of someone there, they didn't have any kind of understanding about how to fix things. And that's something that I find very, very valuable to me now that I have someone who understands how to do that. It makes me feel safe and cared for. My husband likes to have home cooked meals 99% of the time. And that means that I have to be at home with the children in the house almost all the time. And I enjoy doing that because it is the way that I show love and appreciation for him. But he is not in the least bit interested in my art interests or my fashion interests because he's just not that kind of guy. It doesn't mean that I can't take him anywhere or I don't drag him to plays and stuff like that every once in a while, but it does mean that that is a part of the life that I've had to give up in order to be the wife of someone who was willing to take on the responsibility of another man. Recently, he's actually taken up psychology and philosophy, so we do have more things to talk about as our relationship has evolved. But I'm not going to put my relationship aside or find that this relationship is not worth the sacrifices that I've had to make because he also has had to make sacrifices for me. And that just means that you don't get everything that you want. But as far as what I have gotten in place of compromising some of the things that I used to hold dear to me, what I've gotten in return far outweighs what I've had to give up. Because now I actually have a family and a loving and adoring and doting person who, while still a mechanic, makes a recently decent living. And what I did not know is the mechanics make tons of money in this country because they're in very, very high demand. And you can have so many different kinds of job opportunities all over the country and the world that can afford one the opportunity to live comfortably and not have to worry about finances and being financially sound. Now, does that mean that I will be buying a Gucci bag or a Dolce and Gabbana dress? If it's on sale somewhere, like maybe a vintage one. But those things are not the things that are important to me. What I think about now is having a home, paying my mortgage, getting out of debt, and having something that I can pass on to and having legacy. And if you're about those things, then you are the one who is, as a woman, ready to be in a married state. If you are in this for what you can get out of it and not what you necessarily can bring to the relationship, then maybe it is time for you to reconsider being the other woman. No, that's not funny. No, I did not say that. Maybe it might be time for you to reconsider what your priorities are because marriage is not cut out for everyone and it does not necessarily translate into the things that we think they do. Um, and sometimes those things are not necessarily in alignment with the lifestyle that we live now. So I hope this has cleared up a lot of doubt about whether or not you're ready for marriage or whether or not you want to be in a married situation. It is definitely not an easy thing to be in, especially if you're used to living a specific kind of lifestyle. And it is something that you have to be able to become somebody that people want to have in their lives and, really adapt a different way of being. Think I just said the same thing 5 times differently. Anyways, I want to thank you guys again for stopping by. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, please leave them in the description box down below. And I'll see you in the next one. And of course, as usual, please stay safe and stay free.